In Takashi Miike's 117 directorial credits at the time of recording this, I'm sure there's some of those I've never even heard of before, and that's exactly where MPD Psycho comes into play. My wife came up to me with a copy of MPD Psycho 1 in her hands at Half Price Books while I was looking at the Blu-rays and said, "Do you have this? It's from Takashi Miike," and I was like, "Nope, never even heard of it." After buying it and coming home, I found out that it's actually a 6-episode miniseries, so I had to order the other 2 sets to get the complete series. Takashi Miike is one of my favorite directors and has appeared in almost every 31 for 31. MPD Psycho, though, is a miniseries based on the manga that I honestly know nothing about, so I'm not going to compare it to the source material at all. I do want to put into some perspective, this is a project Miike did in 2000, so it's sandwiched right between some of his best work in my opinion, between Audition, Dead or Alive 1 and 2, and Visitor Q, Ichi the Killer, and The Happiness of the Katakura's. When this dude cooks, he cooks. The series follows Yusuke Kobayashi, a detective whose wife was killed by Shinji Nishizono. I think I'm saying that right. Out of the shock of the grisly sight, he develops multiple personalities and replaces disorder in that diagnosis with detective, and bam, you got MPD Psycho. The series is a puzzle to hunt down Nishizono that can bounce from body to body as a somewhat virus, leaving behind massive and grisly scenes while we are constantly being asked who is Kazuhiko Amiya and Lucy Monostone. First off, the DVD quality in these releases are really bad. It feels more like a VHS rip than a DVD and has a weird 4:3 letterbox aspect ratio with some massive compression issues. Honestly, going into episode 3 and 4 of disc 2, after the first disc, I was super excited because not only was the premise very interesting, but this was full tilt unhinged Miike. This isn't super gory like Ichi the Killer is. It is gruesome, but it's so unhinged in its editing that I was just like really into it. I do want to say that the series does have some censoring. According to the back of the box, that the series was made for Japanese TV and has some censoring, and they try to remove it to the best that they could, but the original footage is gone. However, because of the editing and the series presentation, I could easily argue that this was all done by choice, and you could probably believe it. The series messes with the heads of the characters and the mystery of trying to find Nishizono. Man, I feel like that is so hard for me to say, but I feel like that purposely messes with the heads of the audience as well. The visual effects are terrible throughout the series besides the gore effects, but it's so blatant about it that it kind of comes off as like intentionally bad. The whole series looks super cheap, but everything as a whole as a production kept me constantly guessing if this is actually happening or even if it's happening in a way that is being presented. And it seems like the answer to that question was mostly yes, but there's so many intercuts, fast snippets, time manipulation, set design choices, literally removing characters mid-scene that generally fucked with my head. The entire runtime is filled with hyperactive cutting and effects, while also leaving in these long shots that's honestly worth watching the entire thing just from an editing standpoint. I could never tell, like, is this intentional or not? Like, it's just so all over the place. However, the first 2 episodes are the high point of the series. After that, we spent a lot of time with chunks that doesn't really need to be here. This is a 6-episode series with every episode being around 50 minutes long, and honestly, this could have been a better 2.5 hour, maybe 3-hour film. I really felt like it was a slog to get through to the end of the series. Despite there being moments that would pull me back into the narrative, there's just a lot of bloat in this series that led to kind of an unfortunately unsatisfying ending. The series did make me want to check out what the manga is like. It had a lot of really interesting ideas and themes, along with some truly chilling and gruesome moments, but ultimately kind of fizzled out toward the back half. This is one that I would give a rewatch to at some point in time, but it isn't going to be anytime super soon, and I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10, with those first 2 episodes being like an 8, episodes 3 and 4 being like a 4 or 5 out of 10, and then episodes 5 and 6 being like a 5 and a 6. So that's kind of my rating for that. So yeah, bye.